Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. First stream back in the studio for a while. We are going to talk about what Germany has just announced and what's going on in Europe this week, this month, the last couple of years. It's just getting more and more crazy every day in Europe. And now I think it's pretty clear what's going to happen with the new EU president as well. And this won't surprise you or shock you. We're going to go through all of this. There's a lot to go through today. But yes, my internet is finally back on in the studio here. Just had, after the tree came down and took out all the lines, we are finally back and crushed the fiber line. We're finally back. So good news. Let's go straight to the shared screen then. And if you haven't got your Black Friday deal yet, make sure to get that. It is going to end. It will end on Cyber Monday. So you've got this week to get that. And in the description, you can find all about the Academy, all the different programs, everything that's in there, monthly investment video. You can even see my investments and spreadsheet. You can get all of this for a very low monthly cost. Okay. Let's get started then. I don't know if you have seen the news all over the place at the moment, but this is everywhere. Germany making a list of bomb shelters. Yes, I did just use the keyword. Hopefully we won't get censored here. For new app as tensions with Russia rise. You know how many times I saw this same story today? This was out of Euronews. Yes, they're designing an app for all the bunkers. This was out of another one, Euro Weekly. Germany prepares for war with bomb shelters. This was out of The Guardian. This was just been non-stop. All of these articles about Germany, war, bomb shelters. Now, we've talked about this before and the psychological aspect of why they do this. There is within modern warfare, there is this, well, it's not even modern, there's always the psychological aspect as well. So what do you have to do before a country is ready for war? One thing that I am massively against, by the way, unless it's absolutely necessary, but just to make that clear, some people assume because I was a sergeant in the army for 10 years that I must love war and fighting and everything else. It's just not the case. When you've done it for a long time and you've seen it from the bottom level all the way up to the senior level and how decisions are made and well, how decisions are really made, you sort of lose your appetite for that sort of thing. But what are they preparing people for at the moment then? It's via the media. So it's very small steps. And we've talked about the step. I'm not going to go through all the steps again because we've talked about it so many times. But it's these small steps. And then it's the next step. It's the next step. And then what they've been talking about several months ago, back in July, was boots on the ground. So mainly French boots on the ground, but also they talked about British boots on the ground. That's now come back up again this week on Monday. I think it was Monday's video. We talked about that, where they're talking about all over again. Macron is leading this with Starmer. These two are just the bad uns in Europe. They really are, with all this pushing it. They want troops on the ground. They want more weapons. They want more fighting. They want all these dystopian laws in their own countries. You know, probably just lost a few people there from the stream, but that's my views on how they're managing things. So what are they doing? They're taking us from step to step to step, and they've put it back on the table now that troops might need to go in. So now what they're talking about is these bomb shelters. Germany's preparing for bomb shelters. And you'll see every week there's another thing coming out. This is all part of, I had friends that did this when I was in the military. I had two actually female friends. One was a staff sergeant, one was a sergeant, and they both worked in this department. So it's very interesting to know how these things actually work. You do it step by step. You release things into the media and you prepare the citizens. So that's why last year there was Operation Mobilize, which I talked about. Everyone said was a conspiracy theory. And then everyone went, oh, okay, actually now it's in the mainstream media. It's actually true. Operation Mobilize. mobilize the military, mobilize the reserves, and then mobilize the civilians. This is an actual thing, by the way, if you're not aware. So these are the stages. And then let's go back a second here. So obviously they're planning now for all of these bomb shelters. This is a big thing. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Germany changing public buildings into bomb shelters as nuclear threats loom. So again, they keep dropping all these things in. They're saying there's a nuclear threat now and you need to prepare for it. What did we have last week then? I didn't have even time because there was so much going on news-wise to talk about this. We had this one, stockpile. And they keep using the word stockpile and stock up because, again, they're key words. Medication, baby food. So they even use words like this, baby food. Why was this? It's because Sweden and Finland advise citizens on how to survive, not prepare for, but how to survive a war. They said that this new brochure that they've put out will put greater emphasis on preparing for war and surviving war. The state of the world has worsened drastically in recent years. Wars being waged in our vicinity. Extreme weather events are becoming increasingly common. Terror threats, which is very interesting because what did we again talk about just on yesterday's video? We're seeing all of these new terror threats taking place, and we're actually seeing bombs and all sorts of other things. One which was, did you even hear about this in the news before I told you last night? There were three, London Euston, Gatwick, and the US Embassy. Two of them were bombs, but they were hoax bombs. One of them was detonated. That's why there was such a large explosion. Again, what happened on Westminster Bridge, we still don't know. Even after last night's video, I was reading the comments. People don't know. I mean, usually you guys solve these mysteries for me in the comments. We still don't know what happened. We still don't know why all the cameras were turned off, why the people's phones were taken from them with the footage, how it went from a stabbing to a man just had a heart attack, even though there was hundreds of police cars and there was all these cordons. No, a guy just had a heart attack and that was it. Well, how did two men get head injuries and how did four people get arrested for attempted murder? It doesn't make any sense, the whole thing. So we are seeing this escalation now, but what they're doing is they're removing all this stuff so that you don't focus on it, because you will get overwhelmed if you knew the truth of everything going on. Believe me, when I did this sort of work, it was, you do become numb to it because you know there's so much happening that you don't even want to think about a lot of it. And that's why I would say with certain people, and this is why, think of it if you know any soldiers or military people, where they go off to, let's say they went off to Iraq or they went off to Afghanistan, they get some R&R, rest and recuperation period, halfway through their tour. And you notice they're quite different. Or when you come back from a tour, people would always say, Neil, you're very different. Your eyes are different. You're very different. You're not very talkative. You're very sort of, you're not right and things like that. And that can happen to a civilian population as well. You think about during World War I, you look at World War II, and there's a lot of these really interesting montages that you can see on social media, and it shows people's pictures beforehand, or not just soldiers, but people in the public, and then it shows afterwards, and they look completely different. And it's because of the emotional trauma these things take on us. So what they are doing is they're preparing people for an obvious thing that they want. And it is obvious that they want to have some sort of a war, and all wars are bankers' wars, as we know. We follow the money every time, it leads the same place. I've done the investigations for you, and it's the same thing. I've seen the same thing this time around as well. And the people, and it's a conflict of interest. It should be illegal, but of course it's not. For these politicians making the decisions to have interest in defense companies, owning stocks, owning shares, or getting payments from them, lobbying for oh, we'll help you get into the next government, etc., because then you have to pay these things back. All this stuff is highly immoral at best, and highly illegal at worst, but they write the laws so they can get away with these things. But you have got to be aware of all the things going on. Let's go back to some of these articles. So that's what they're preparing people for: terror threats, cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns to influence us. So they keep using the words influence us, and you'll see why when we talk about the last article here. Something very interesting has taken place in Romania just today. So they also give advice how to prepare for long power cuts, water outages, telecommunications disruptions, extreme weather events, and military conflict. And remember, there's also, governments have weapons now, and they've had them way since I was in the military, for weapon events, so they can do weapon events on other countries. Earlier this year, Norway and Denmark, two other members of the 32-party bloc, distributed updated wartime guidance on how people should prepare for potential crises. So it's not just Finland here, it's also Norway, it's Denmark. And when we look on the map, we can see why. Here's Finland, here's Sweden, here's Norway, here's Denmark here. So you can see this block, this sort of block here. And we'll talk about Romania and why this is a key. The EU is in meltdown over what's happening in Romania at the moment. I probably should have titled this video, the shock that just happened in Romania, or something like that. But these are the things that they are getting ready for. And then there's all these articles on long life food. It's funny, when I talked about long life food previously and how to prepare and all the other stuff, I was a conspiracy theorist, and I'm helping to cause shortages, apparently, when I'm telling people how to prepare. But now the media's doing it, it's okay. So they give you a checklist here, home emergency supplies checklist, and it's all pretty basic stuff that you should have anyway. They say you need 72 hours worth. I would say that's crazy. 72 hours would be the minimum. A small amount of cash. Huh? I thought they said get rid of all of your cash, but now they're saying you need a small amount of cash. And then they say get sufficient knowledge and competence. Well, it's a bit late now for the sort of knowledge, skills, competence you're gonna need if you're in Europe when all this kicks off. And do not lose your head when getting the supplies if there is an incident. Well, you've seen all these movies. What is the very first thing that happens? Think of like, what was the War of the Worlds, Tom Cruise. What's the first thing that happens at the supermarket? It is carnage. That is the last place you want to be going, my friends. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to see this anytime soon, but what I am saying is that what did we see as soon as the election, the US election happened, and Trump said he's going to create peace and he's going to stop the war and all this? What did we see within this week? Biden all of a sudden does this U-turn. Okay, yeah, fire long-range missiles. France does the same. Britain does the same. And this has escalated things. One point I didn't make before my video around the long-range missiles, because I said this has brought in the US, France, UK, and everyone said, no, it hasn't, Neil. Just because they supplied them, it doesn't mean anything. You've got to understand, they are not just supplying. You cannot fire this sort of technology without the oversight, the satellites, the people who are highly trained on them. And that's not the Ukrainians. I'm sorry, I know some of you don't like that or don't believe me when I say that, but it is the truth. If you look into it, these missiles have to be fired. I mean, yeah, maybe you've got a Ukrainian that pushes the button or something at the end, but it's all got to be programmed in by these representative countries' militaries. The Ukrainians are not doing this, and that's why we're seeing the sort of rhetoric change and attention. So why would you even do that just before Trump's about to come in a couple of months' time? That's the question. It's all being pushed forward. So what else have we got going on? Yeah, and we keep seeing all these articles. This was out in Newsweek. Europeans told to stockpile food in case of war with Russia. But let's talk about, this just came out of Euronews. Ursula von der Leyen has now been approved yet again to be the president of Europe. Who voted her in? Did you vote? Anybody, Europeans, did you vote? No, it was these weirdos. These people here, some of the strangest people I've ever heard give speeches in my life, they voted her in, and that's basically it. So the Europeans don't even have a say because they don't get to vote. So this is the new European Commission president. She has been voted in again for 5 years, ladies and gents, and you know that she is war hungry, as has been proven. So she got 370 votes in favor, 282 against, 36 didn't vote, and represented nearly 54% of all votes cast. One thing she said she's going to do, close the innovation gap with the US and China. Good luck with that. I just don't see it. Support for Ukraine, defense, migration management. We know what that means. She said that last time, and that increased migration. Budget, and by the way, this isn't talking about what you would, a lot of you class as positive migration versus negative migration. This is talking about migration that is non-legal. I have to say that now, people get upset. Non-legal migration. Budget reform, rule of law. These are all the things she's going to be talking about. And they keep using this about the right wing and how the danger from the right wing. The reason why they keep saying there's danger from the right wing is because a lot of these people sit on the left. Now, let me just outline something here. I have no issues with people whether they sit on the left or the right. I think what you need in any society is a balance. And it has to be a careful balance between people on the left, people on the right. See, what we don't want is what we've had, where you get these very... because when you have too many on the left, what happens is you tend to get these people that pop up that are on the extreme left. And it's the same on the right, when you get someone who's very, very hardcore on the right. Okay, I struggle with either one of those sort of groups. But people on the left, people on the right, and you come together and you have some sort of a, this Goldilocks zone. And that's where you have really good political, everything works well. Economics, society, things just work, right? But what we've had is some of these crazy idealists coming in, and like I showed you on the Lisbon video, read the comments on that Lisbon video, read the comments on the London video, some of the others, and you will read. And what's really fascinating to me is the people who are Portuguese from Lisbon on that video where I walked around and talked about Lisbon. They said, you are absolutely right. It's such a shame what has happened to the country. And they said why, those reasons I just outlined. Now, the people who are complaining, leaving negative comments, talking absolute nonsense, don't know what they're talking about. They say things like, oh, I'm from, and they'll say something like Washington, California, and I lived there for a few years and everything's perfect. You're just, the problem is the far right. You guys, and it's like, what are you talking? Read some of the comments, you'll see it's absolutely mind-blowing what they are talking about. So this is the point. You've got to have a nice mix. You've got to have things that are voted in based, and we'll talk about votes in a second when we come back to Romania. This is going to be a bit of a longer stream here because we've still got stuff to talk about. But hold on, what else was there on this? Yeah, she's been approved. She's been approved. She's going to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. Guarantee military, financial, humanitarian aid. So regardless of what Donald Trump says, that's it. They're going to be doing it. Establish a 50 billion euro plan that allows Brussels to provide Ukraine with assistance up to 2027. And last month, this allowed G7 allies to issue a loan of 45 billion euros or $50 billion using Russia's frozen assets, or what has been taken from Russia as collateral. This was the other thing. They said that European Union is going to be, doing really well, making a lot of money from the reconstruction. No, they won't. It's BlackRock that's going to be doing the reconstruction. They've already invested. The plan's already out there. You can read it for the rebuilding of Ukraine. And then trade stuff. We might get into trade law another day. What else? Insane if the West gives Ukraine nuclear weapons. This is the debate that's going on at the moment. They are actually debating this as if it's even an option for two countries to start throwing nukes at each other. Because as I said, you know that Ukraine would use these weapons. Okay, let's talk about the crazy one then. You see how they've used this image of this man, by the way? He is winning right now. Romania, actually victory of Romania is what they call TikTok Messiah. saying it's an alarm bell for Europe. So they deliberately use silly pictures of these people. They call him an extremist candidate because he won, and they said that he used foul play because he used TikTok, and that TikTok is not approved. It violated the EU Digital Services Act, and this was a massive influence campaign for the anti-EU, pro-Russia candidate. Okay, so again, they start throwing all these different words in here. And where are we? Okay, so they're saying now that TikTok executives have to appear before the European Parliament over a breach of the EU Digital Services Act. Now, one thing on this act, if you remember, we talked about it. The EU Digital Services Act is not really, it is in law now, but remember who it was created by. It was created to reinforce the people who have power right now. It's not as if this was created. Some of the things in it are good, by the way. There's protections for children and other things like that. Fully support it. But the other aspects of it are very dystopian. It's to stop free speech. And Keir Starmer just ran with this back in July, locking people up over memes and mean tweets. I mean, this is where the EU is going. Britain's the canary in the coal mine, and it was very effective for what they wanted to achieve. So they've got this candidate, and they're saying that, you know, what he's done is potentially illegal, that he used TikTok to influence all of the voters. They use the word all of the voters in Romania. Well, anyone with half a brain and a bit of logic would say, hold on. How many people are there in Romania? Okay, there's this many. How many of them are on TikTok? Is this many? And it's the younger age group. So all these other people, this landslide victory, that was nothing to do with it. So you start reading into this more, which I did, and I read through all the policy and what he's, you know, running on, stuff like that. He's basically saying that inflation has crippled people, food prices, energy prices, all these things, and he's going to turn it around. That's basically it. That's what he's saying. So what did he win on? Did he really win on illegal TikTok something or other, or did he win by being saying what people want to hear? I think it's the latter. So this is they are in meltdown at the moment over this. Okay, I've got so much more we could talk about, but I think I'll wrap it up there. I think, was that the last thing? Yeah, I mean, here we go. You see where Romania is. This is why the EU is so worried. Look where Romania is here. I think they're getting worried, especially because of Hungary and Poland. What's going on with these countries? I think the EU is running a little bit worried at the moment. I mean, even the BBC ran with this far-right candidate. They keep saying far-right when, is he far-right or is he just on the right? Is he just conservative? I don't know. I don't speak Romanian, but I'm sure you can, if you're Romanian. I've got a lot of Romanian subscribers. Please drop in the comments what you think. And just remember, Black Friday week, grab your deal. Don't forget that. Apart from that, thank you so much for being online. I'm so glad to be back in the studio for another week and a half before travels, but great to have you. Take care. God bless. Please subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you on the next video.